Since we talk about MCP, right, let's get into this part of the discussion. How do you think a model context protocol, which is MCP tools, aim to maintain contextual memory across sessions and applications? Is it will transform how AI agents support long-term workflows? What do you guys think?
I'm a huge fan of MCP, and we started looking into the MCPs right after they were released last November. And I think it's so basically a lot of people say it's a wrapper on the tool use and function calling. But we think it's a huge thing. So first is increasing the reusabilities. It gets a lot of things like the APIs, the tools, the capabilities. They give those capabilities to agents pretty easy. When we build new agents, we can reuse a lot of things. And in the protocols, they got a lot of other things, resource prompts defined. So from the development perspective, it's lower the barriers to build an agent, and it's increasing the capabilities of agent can do. And especially when we do this client, so when we're working with our client, it's when we're building multiple different types of agents for different departments and teams. It's definitely like a speed up our development process a lot. And from personal perspective, so we're using the cursors and things like that, like some similar tools. So it's definitely like a speed up and accelerate a lot on our development, designing, and a lot of different types of process. We use different MCPs to accelerate when we build up our PRD, when we do our designs, when we convert our designs to our VPs, doing the code iterations. I just feels like it's pretty capable of doing a lot of things, and also, but still, there's a long way to go because currently, I feel it's more. It requires you to have some backgrounds of engineering. You need to know how to set up configuration the MCPs to different hosts and clients. It's still like pretty hard for users without any engineering background. So I think that's something we are trying to solve as well, because we want to our clients to be able to self-serving them to building agents by themselves without knowing any MCP setups and coding skills. Yeah.
Cool.
We are actually in the process of integrating with MCP. So currently we use APIs to call different agents, but having MCP just makes things a little bit easier for people to plug in different services.
Our product is not yet MCP, but we do use a lot of other products, as mentioned before, like Cursor. So I believe MCP model, it will be very powerful. It will be the glue between the tools and also the agents. We actually are planning to develop something that helps people to actually upload their content to YouTube and also to do SEO monitoring and do a Reddit engagement in one flow. So I believe this will be actually powered by MCP, and it will be very powerful after we develop everything out.
Interact with MCP or leverage MCP. What do you think the pros and cons of this protocol? And do you feel there's some pinpoint when you guys start to deploy it? Joe, do you want to go first?
I don't really see a huge pain point on that in terms of implementing. It's just extra work that you need. So I think it's extra work in the front, but eventually it will be much easier for all the things to communicate in the same protocol.
Yeah, I see both pros and cons. So for ourselves, the pros would definitely the reusabilities, the scalabilities. So there's a huge open community around MCP, right? There are a lot of people building open source MCP clients and servers every day. And it's definitely helping us to speed up our development of different types of agents. It's a great community. And also Anthropic is building up the protocols proactively. That's definitely something like we love. But there are also pinpoints. But I think it's basically at this point. I think they're going to stop it later. It's about authentication. So think about some general tools like Google and Google APIs or some other like Slack or things like that requires authentication. So they do support different types of authentication right now. You can use API keys or you can use the OAuth, but still it's kind of like to me, I think it's still kind of a complicated process. It's also for the users. So in that case, I do hope it can be more user friendly in terms of authentication. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Quanlai, when you try to leverage other products MCP to support yours, did you see any pros and cons or something difficult to use or something?
So first, I think everyone has already learned the benefit of doing that. And as Nathan said, that the authentication is a problem. Basically, if you have a lot of contacts, you are going to that's actually owned by different applications. Then you are trying to basically reduce the barrier between those applications. It will be pretty hard. For example, if you have something in cursor and you have something in the browser, and then you want to connect each other, it's a little bit hard. So I do see that there could potentially be some new product or a change towards this to allow for a better communication between different contexts.
I also have a follow-up question about NCP. NCP is a two-use protocol, basically. And Nathan, you has already mentioned about the A2A other protocol, basically agent to agent. So what are the differences? Why is that two using and agent to agent need two different protocols? What are the differences between the two scenarios? And also, do you think MCP can be further extend to agent or
Experience? We are not using A2A. We are actually leveraging MCP for agent to talking to agents. So we do write like some AI calls as an SFC server. For example, when we're building this agent for design team or marketing teams to create posts, we basically there's going to be this agent making all the plans, how many layers we need, what kind of image we need, and it's going to call an MCP server, which is another image creating agent. It's going to create the image we're going to use as a background, or it's going to call a customized model to create the figure we used in the post. So we do see MCP can be extended as 2A protocols. You basically just wrap the agent as a MCP server, and we're also working building something in this way. But it's hard to talk to the pros and cons between MCP and A2A today as for now. Especially for myself, we haven't used A2A yet, but I do see a lot of benefits going forward. Because when we back to my days at Amazon, so at that time we don't have LLMs, we don't have all the things we have today, but we're also using some similar architectures today. So they're basically going to be the master agent. At that time, it's going to route users' query to different types of domains. Like when user has a shopping intent, we're gonna route it to the shopping domains. If it has a gaming intent, we're gonna route to gaming domains. It's pretty similar to protocols, which you have an agent and they talk to different types of agents directly. It's like an MOE, right? You route different intent to different agents to finish all the follow-up tasks. I see A2A has a huge use case because in terms of scalabilities, think about it. You can have an agent which has 100 MCP servers, right? Even though the LLM models become very powerful, but it's hard for them to understand all the context of which tools I should use when they have 100 or hundreds of MCPs. And in that case, we probably have thousands of tools under those MCP servers. So at that time, it's definitely you want to go with a new architecture, you just split it to different type of agents, a different type of experts. You have a major agents, and you want to sub agents, different agents to handle design works. Agents handle the research work. An agent handles the image creation or video editing works. So at that time, I think A2A definitely going to have play a more important role. But again, back to whether we can extend the MCP to cover the works that A2A is going to do. Yeah, I do think so. I think you can basically write the agent as an MCP server, but we still need to test it out to see how it works. I think because fundamentally A2A is more focusing on agent talking to agents, and it has a lot of designs. They have a lot of architecture design that's specifically for these use cases. So I think it's probably going to work better. I think than MCP when in terms of the agent talking to agent?
Currently, when we design the MCP client, we have to put some kind of MCP server into the configurations. So do you mean that the A2A can, in the future, you predict it will help to the discovery of the MCP servers, right?
Yeah, I think both agent discovery in A2A as well as the MCP server discovery gonna be more dynamic, and it's more. I think it's gonna be impacted by the frontier models, the fundamental models. When the model become more powerful, it's going to have a better performance in terms of the agents or the MCP server discovery. But in terms of scalability, I think A2A probably going to have a more important role. Because when you build an agent and it has tens or hundreds of MCP servers, it's going to be super hard. It's going to affect the performance for sure. So in that case, I think a multi-agents architecture could be more helpful because you can just basically have a rolling agents and route different queries or different intents to different agents. Yeah.
Thank you. And Joe, how do you think about this question then? The MPC and the A2A, the protocols right now are rising, and also Nathan is talking about the scalabilities and also the discovery of the MCP servers. So how do you see this problem?
It's just like two different protocols. Everybody wants to be the control one, but you never know which one is going to get more popular. But at least I see MCP seems to have more adoption because they're earlier. But I guess that's where I would bet my money on. But it's hard to say. Maybe Google will catch up. But I don't really see a huge difference right now.
Yeah, so similar feeling. I would prefer MCP over A2A, but I haven't used much A2A yet. And actually, I think it's probably too early to make any judgment, but I would happy to see how the technology develops.
So our next question actually already mentioned about the data. Currently, NCP, as far as we know, that still we don't support the authentication things, and many users express concern about the data privacy, model hallucination, and over dependence on AI tools, as well as these authentication issues. So how do you or your companies mitigate these risks while still pushing innovation forward? Can we start with Quanlai this time first?
Yeah, sure. So I think the hallucination data privacy is a very big concern, especially if our clients are professionals, they want their content to be very accurate. So what we do is that we draw a line between the AI assistant content and also the user's intent. So our users will actually review. We will ask them to review all the content before they publish those content. This is the way how we keep the human in the loop when the judgment is needed. And because a lot of our content are actually related to healthcare, we want our content to be as accurate as possible. And because we control our own agents and the text that avoid passing sensitive data to the unpredicted third-party APIs. And in the long term, we don't want AI to replace human being totally, but we want AI to execute the human's command efficiently, and that's our goal.
Sorry, I was muted. So I totally agree. Hallucination is a huge problem especially we are working with business and workflow SOPs, and but I think agents basically is helping a lot in that case. So if you are using ChatGPT or using the model directly trying to get an answer, it's definitely get a higher possibilities to get a hallucination. But with the agents, we are setting up different tools. Some of the MCP is going to be the rules you basically have to follow. One of our agents built for client is basically a customer support. So we wrap up and enforce all the responses to go through the judgment tools to decide whether you have some hallucinations or some punishments or things like that before it returns response to the customers and the clients. So we do have some judging tools before we return the response. That's going to help. And especially when we talking about the enterprise agents, they got a pretty specific SOPs and they got some specific rules we have to follow. So I think that also helps. So we are more leveraging the models for the planning and the raising capabilities. We don't directly get an answer from the model, but like, using the internal data source. So I think that also helps. So in our cases, so we are basically following this practice.
So I think there are a couple of ways that you can improve accuracy, reduce hallucination. RAG is one type of ways that you can do it. It's always like if you have a confidence score, that helps you. If you ground down the source information, that helps you too. There are many companies specific who works on evaluations, guardrails like your views, and there's also work on more security related, like virtual. I think for us, we mostly leverage other people to help us on these things. So we plug into their offerings as well.
Now, how about the data privacy things and also authentication things? Do you encounter this also?
Of course, OAuth is always a problem. Everybody finds it very painful, but it's also very useful for protecting the security, like especially on transactions of money and things like that. I think it's just a way that we need to put in these sort of what I would usually call safety checks, try to distill it into the infrastructure instead of on the application layer. So whenever you use the infrastructure to build things, it's by default compliant and secure. It's the same thing if you think about databases, right? Back in the days in databases, you have to write a lot of things yourself. But now, whenever you use a certain standardized database, you don't have that problem. So I think it has to be on the infrastructure level to build on the security layer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Actually, yeah, going back to MCP is like client server model, similar to HTTPS, but we have HTTPS like protocol to guarantee security. Do you think that NCP will be involved in this way, in architecture way, or do you have other opinion for the security part?
I think that's interesting because I'm not sure if this is a question for me, but I just have answer. So basically, HTTPS is like you add SSL to HTTP, right? So if you add SSL to MCP, then certainly you can add a layer of protection. So basically, it means that who you are talking with, another person cannot spoof. But I think their security is more than that. Of course. Maybe we will have MCPS. That's a very interesting concept. But beyond that, there is going to be a lot of other organization or other parties involved. For example, you need to have a certain party. For example, for HTTPS, you need to have a certificate, right? So maybe you will need to have a party that issues all those certificates to AI agent. And I think that's totally a possibility.
So it seems like currently, I think for this type of questions, there are some startup working on those, especially for the data privacy, right? They're not, I do see a lot of startups, they are working at the time data, before the data get into the pipeline. They do have some embedded vector. At that time, they started doing something there, which can solve part of this problem. And also for authentication, there are some companies working on that too. But eventually, I think Anthropic may try to do something and try to mitigate the risk. If you think about this, right, work on something on the data package. So should be the similar what we tried to do before. And so for the next one, if you were to design the perfect AI teammate, right, one that complements human creativity and decision making, what would it looks like? And what are the current technical gaps that need to be bridged? Who wants to be the first? Maybe start with Zhou.
So I want a chief of staff that is AI. That helps me do meeting booking, proactively remind me I forgot certain sales I need to follow up. So it's just like everybody wants a chief of staff that is super smart, super proactive. I think that would be everybody wants executive assistant or something like that, or personal assistant. I think everybody deserves to have one. But right now it's really about where do they get the data, right? A plugin is always problematic. You have so many different ways that you have your phones, that you text people, you have your WhatsApp, you have your WeChat, you have your email, so you have your phone calls, right? All that information is scattered everywhere. And then filtering through the information, draw insights, and doing proactive workflows is also difficult. It's very hard to like identify or just say what does a good chief staff do, right? They do everything. So that's the hard part in terms of how do you through all these can you actually automatically find what is the best workflow from the traces that you record instead of asking people to decoratively say what is the best practice. So I think it's more about how do we learn these best practice automatically? How do we go from that and improve over time when people are started using it? Instead of asking people, oh, do you want a sub or some stand, which is like a lot of people don't like to provide feedbacks for.
Yes, I actually agree with what Joe said. So, personal chief of staff is really important. This reminds me of what I saw on Mark Andreessen's Twitter. So basically, he mentioned that if some developer is only going to build a product for an investor, then that product will be a very large, like a human database, which essentially has all his personal contacts and all the information related to that. So I agree. So it's actually very hard to have everything, all your contacts, all your schedule, etc., in one place, and then you can automatically interact with it. But I think it is going to be a possibility. So that's what Arvind Srinivas, the founder of Perplexity, replied. He mentioned that actually there is going to be something probably provided by Perplexity to help people with that. I think it's a good idea, and I will definitely sign up to try it.
So first of all, I'm a person hard to satisfy. So I don't think there's gonna be. It's hard for me, like to say what is a good, perfect AI teammates. So for one thing is I think it's hard for AI to take the decision making, especially if it performs as my teammate. So I would say a pretty good AI teammates for me would have three things. One is pretty personal. It knows me. Like the agent know me, and it has context about like, okay, your schedule, your relationships, and your friendships, and all that stuff. Second, it should be proactive. The proactive would be like the agent should remind me about the things I need to do at time I need to be reminded. If the agent just keeps like sending me message and notifications, it's gonna be like another app on my iPhone right now. So I don't like that. I think it need to be smart and proactive. And I think the third thing it would be personalization. It's more like it has to have the sorry personalization in terms of the experience. It has to learn from the interactions between us. So let's say like if this teammates help me with the marketing or design stuff, which is that I'm not good at it, it has to learn about my taste, about like, my preference, right? Like okay, what kind of designs I would like, what types of which artists I love most. So from it has to be learn from the interactions and iterate from those experiences. So I think those are the three aspects I would love to see from pretty good AI teammates. But again, I'm probably not a good teammate to this agent as well.
Woo!